miss me?
Hey everyone, Genome here, coming to you with the next episode in my Hack and or Slash series, the series where I take a look back at horror movies of old, especially franchises, and see if they still hold up to today's eyes. So, for those of you who've been watching the recent series on Nightmare on Elm Street, know that I just finished up with Freddy's Dead, the 6th entry in the Nightmare series. Well, lo and behold, we are basically out of the mainline sequels.
I've been looking forward to this.
But we still have a few more to go, believe it or not, because he technically got rebooted almost more than once, but more on that later. So, today, we go back to 1994 to the aptly named Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
What happens when the story dies? The evil is set free. Now that the films have ended, the genie's out of the bottle.
So, I will try to make this video a little bit shorter than most of my other ones, just because, well, I know they go on and on and on. But suffice it to say that a few members from the original show up. This is basically, a reenactment of the first one in some ways. But this movie is very interesting in the fact that it goes very meta very soon. And basically, once again, spoiler alert, if you have not seen this movie and you have any desire to go see it at all, and I probably recommend that you do, push pause now and come back and watch me after you watch the movie, because this is going to be a complete spoiler. So, but this first part, not really a spoiler. This whole movie is a movie within a movie. Basically, this is supposed to be set in the real world. So, technically, this is not the first time it's been done. There's some older movies that have done this before, but, Wes decided to take a new direction as regards to the Nightmare on Elm Street series. So, let's just dive in real fast. I forgot to mention, there's several cameos in here by, people behind the scenes, like Bob Shea.
How would you like to join us in the definitive nightmare?
I thought you killed Freddy off.
Well, we did, but the fans,
And Wes Craven himself has a role in there.
Does this thing have any weaknesses?
Well, it can be captured sometimes.
Captured? How?
By storytellers, of all things.
And vice versa, just lots of people in there that are normally in the background or actually have as a role in this movie, because this is mostly the real world. So, just a really, really fast plot synopsis, then I'll get on to the pros and cons. So, basically, the entirety of the plot is this. And this is where the spoilers will kick in, right? This is the real world, but things start happening. Things start getting really weird really fast. Nancy starts having nightmares again, and so there's her little boy, Dylan, played by Miko Hughes. Nancy's once again played by Heather Langenkamp, by the way, who's referred to as Heather Langenkamp in the movie. Like I said, it's supposedly real world. She's married, got the kid and all that, and her husband works in special effects. So we're lit off with a really cool scene at the very beginning where it's what turns out to be a dream sequence, but they're working on a mechanical hand. I guess they're improvising Freddy's hand, so it becomes a completely mechanical construct. Well, after shooting the scene, the construct itself goes haywire and then starts killing people. And acting like Freddy. And then that's the first dream sequence. So, once again, keeping with the series tradition, we start off with a dream sequence. So, we kind of go into a recurring theme here in this movie is earthquakes. And apparently the area of California that we're living in has been experiencing lots of earthquakes in the last couple of weeks. We also find out Nancy's been getting phone calls. She thinks it's a stalker, an obsessed fan, which she really had in real life, as most horror heroines do, unfortunately. She's getting letters in the mail and phone calls. Well, we are also shown pretty early on that the nightmare sequence that Nancy had, the first, actually injured her husband on the finger where Freddy nicked him in the dream, or Freddy's glove, mechanical hand, whatever. So we're right off the bat finding out, hey, repercussions in this real world are still happening like they did in the movies, right, with the dreams. So, yeah, I said I'd make it short, right? So here we go. But so Dylan is starting to freak out. He keeps watching the movie. He keeps reciting lines from the movie. And basically experiences nightmares. Nancy starts going further and further off the deep end, somewhat it seems, but it's actually her just having nightmares, and Freddy's starting to invade the world. So the whole premise of this movie is, and Wes explains this about the midway point of this movie.
How can we stop him?
I think the only way to stop him is to make another movie.
Is that supposedly there's an ancient evil in this world, and all it wants to do is maim and kill, right? Well, this entity can be trapped, but only by storytelling. So as long as like there's a story out there, and they use Hansel and Gretel as a great example throughout this movie of evil, being trapped into the story, it stays in the story and in the imagination. But if it's like if it gets out of the public consciousness for too long, and people don't tell the stories anymore, or in this case, the movies have been done, Freddy's dead, right? It starts to want to move in the real world and do the real thing, right? So these earthquakes are kind of alluded to as being Freddy working his way farther and farther into the real world. And there's lots of like little signs that it's Freddy, like the very effective scene actually with the 4 cracks appear in the wall in the shape of a claw mark. And vice versa. But anyway, so Nancy's husband dies. He can sleep and dream of Freddy too for some reason. It basically can affect anybody who's ever worked around the original production staff or something. I don't know. It's kind of vague right there. But basically, Wes started having nightmares again, so he started writing the script. Everything he writes in the script is coming to pass. I mean, down to the very word. So it's like he's definitely meta at this point. But anyway, so the entity decides he likes Freddy's persona and he wants to keep it, and he's going to use that persona to jump into the real world. So before a movie can be made to trap him again, he starts making his move, right? And he does that through Dylan. He keeps kind of possessing him and attacking him in his sleep. It's kind of unclear, but like I said, Dylan will speak in like the Freddy voice or whatever he tries to throughout there. He starts having seizures and all kinds of things. It's actually kind of interesting, and kind of a cool little idea here they post is that Dylan keeps Rex, his stuffed animal Tyrannosaurus Rex, right, at the foot of his bed to be his protector.
Rex keeps him down there. The mean old man with the claws. He wants to come up while we sleep. And
we see some pretty effective stuff where he explains that Rex is his protector, and it basically keeps Freddy, he's fighting Freddy off with this stuffed animal. You never see this, of course, but then you see the one scene where Rex has the big slashes in him.
Rex saved me.
He did.
So it's like, it's kind of a cool idea. It's like, in your child's imagination and your dream, your imaginary friend can help protect you, right? But Freddy's getting stronger and stronger. It's what's also alluded to. But so basically, Dylan kind of lapses, has some seizure-like thing. So they take him to the hospital, and Freddy's still coming. They dope the kid up. He's going to sleep, and basically the last third of the entire movie is a big long chase scene, and we wind up in, I don't know, the dream world. The dream world is now, I guess, where that demon lives, or that, that evil presence, whatever it is. So Nancy takes some sleeping pills to go get her son because Freddy has kidnapped him. And so she enters this poorly rendered dream world, right? This looks like a slash between, looks like the Coliseum Rome days if they got hit by a nuclear bomb and some Art Deco guys, right? So she goes in some chase scenes involving Freddy and Dylan. They go back and forth, of course. Freddy turns into his usual bumbling self, and let's just say, I won't spoil the complete ending for you, but evil is put in check, shall we say. So that's basically the premise. Real world, ancient evil wants to get out, of Storyland, where he's been kept for a while now in check, and then Nancy is the conduit with which he can do it. So he has to go through her to get in. And that's basically it. It's not a whole lot to this movie beyond that. So it's a simple premise, but it works, and it's definitely very different than most everything else that was around that time. So let's talk a little bit about this movie. This movie is a very, very, very slow burn. Technically speaking, I don't think you see Freddy for, I want to say like hour and 20 minutes into the movie, because the movie is like almost a 2-hour movie. It's like an hour and 55 minutes. I don't think you even see him till like last 30 minutes of the movie at all. And you see, quite a bit of him at that point, but so don't go in this expecting to see him like, wreaking havoc from the start. He does have a few scenes in the beginning and a tiny bit in the middle, but you never actually see Freddy. It's, the mechanical hand for one. This movie has a very, very, very low body count too, so don't expect that. It's like 2 on-screen kills and the rest are off-screen. It's something. So it's not a gore fest and it's not a kill fest. So don't go in expecting that. But anyway, let's get into some pros and cons. Some pros. Okay, the premise is very interesting.
It's been giving me Freddy nightmares.
Wait a second. Now, let me get this straight. You're having nightmares about Freddy? As in me?
Like I said, the whole meta thing had not been fully fleshed out yet, but, Wes took that ball and ran with it.
No, it isn't you. He's scarier. He's
Darker. More evil?
It was kind of started, if you think about it, too, with Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. That was a pretty meta movie for its time, and it was kind of the template for a lot of these, I keep saying meta, but these future meta movies, right? Most of the cast does a good job. The recurring cast members there's a few there, like I said, Nancy, played by Heather Langenkamp, still good. She turns in her best performance.
When that time comes, you're gonna have to make a choice.
choice. What kind of choice?
Whether or not you're willing to play Nancy one last time.
She seems kind of believable in the maternal role. I like her much better in this movie than I did in the first one. Let's just say that. She's pretty solid all throughout. Dylan, played by Miko Hughes, he's a prolific child actor, but it's very difficult to put the burden of that much screen time on a child actor that young. You know what I mean? So some of it's okay, and some of it's kind of cringy. I can't blame it. Kid, what is he, 8? 8 or 9? It's amazing he can do this, at all. I do say I like the child actor that they used in Dream Child, Part 5, better. He had better line delivery. His timing was better.
Been having bad dreams.
Is this where you live, Jacob?
Just waiting for someone.
But I guess Dylan's serviceable. They just have him screaming too much. Waking up and screaming out of these trances is kind of annoying. John Saxon's back. He's still just kind of there. Nothing too extraordinary there.
What's going on, Nancy?
Why are you calling me Nancy, John?
Why are you calling me John?
And Wes Craven has a fairly extensive cameo in this, Bob Shea and all that. So, but there's not a whole ton of extreme acting prowess to be seen here. Mostly tertiary characters at that point. So there's not a whole lot of characters to get invested in. The effects that you see look decent to sometimes kind of poor. Some things I like, some things I don't. I really like the intro scene. It's really cool. It's a good way to start the movie off. And it's a little bit of trickery too. And Freddy is redesigned. It'll be more on that later. But yeah, it looks okay. A lot of this movie is shot in a house, so it's not real varied. But then you get to see an office building, some of the celebrity houses, as it were, like Wes's place and all that. You get to see, which is also cool, Robert Englund out of the makeup, playing Robert Englund, right? And so that's pretty cool. I guess you could say he does well at it because he's playing himself, but he also plays Freddy as well. So what else did I like? Like I said, the premise is interesting, having to turning Freddy into some sort of ancient demon who needs to be trapped. lot cooler than the Dream Demon idea, right? And it's kind of another interesting idea to see him coming into the world, and in doing so, him moving closer into our world is like causing these natural, disaster-like things, these earthquakes and such, and all these dreams for everybody just surrounded by the project, or anyway involved in the project. So that's kind of cool. This movie builds up some tension. This has been missing forever in the series, basically since 1, because there's no real tension in sequels. Even 3, which ups the stakes a little bit, it's not really tense, right? It is, but it isn't. Nothing like this. This movie takes its time and builds up dread, and you really don't want Nancy to go to sleep again, just like in the first one, And you worry a little bit about Dylan. It's always hard to see a child in peril. So it does a good job of building a sense of dread, even in well-lit environments. Like a lot of time, this is shot in the daytime, so it's kind of hard to make that stuff scary. They do a pretty good job with it. That's most of the pros. Oh, and let's get this right now. This is the best nightmare film in a long time. There's been so much garbage. The last good one, I think, was 4, and that was still more of an MTV, summer blockbuster type movie. This, while a lot different than the previous ones, still feels like a nightmare movie somewhat, but it's just, I would rather take the slow pacing and sense of dread over any of the crap we saw in 5 or 6. That bombast and comedy is ridiculous. Supposedly this is a return to Darker Freddy as well, but we'll get into that some more. So, yeah, this movie builds up pretty good dread and atmosphere, and it makes you start worrying for Heather, right? Now let's talk about some cons. This is not going to be a complete love fest for this movie, because there's a lot of problems with this movie. I already mentioned the pacing. It's good for building dread, but it's a slow movie. So if you are in there wanting a little more fast-paced horror action, this ain't the movie for you, because this movie is all about atmosphere. And setting up the impending final showdown, but there's really not much happening in between. A lot of child freak-out scenes, a lot of Nancy looking worried, a lot of Nancy talking and getting exposition from other characters. So it's a slow burn. This is really like snail-paced slow burn, right? It's not a problem with that for the patient viewer. I'm just warning you, if you're kind of a hyperactive kind of viewer, this probably won't be the movie for you. Some of the effects I mentioned already are really hit or miss. There's some really cheap looking stuff in here. I'll start right off with it. I don't like Freddy's design at all in this. He's supposed to look more demonic and all that. And there were some cool ideas, but they redid his face. Did not look burnt, but like it's splitting open. They gave him like these like really big orbital sockets that kind of like point out to the sides, and these weird looking contacts in there.
Dylan, what's the matter?
I just don't like those look at all. The trench coat was okay. They gave him like this brilliantly clean and nice green fedora. Well, what happened to brown? Brown is much scarier, more ragged looking, right? He's wearing leather pants now for some reason. He's like a hot topic Freddy here. He's got Doc Martens on that go up, up to his calves, for goodness sake. And you don't see it too much, but he has like a biomechanical hand now. So basically, it looks like his hand is kind of skinless now, and the knives are coming out of it, a la like Part 2 or whatever. So I didn't mind that so much. I liked the original glove better, but I guess it worked. But yeah, some of the effects just didn't look all that great. And some of the CGI is pretty poor. They had to use that like in the mechano hand glove scene and all that. And let me tell you, that last set looks pretty weak. They tried to do some really highbrow stuff by putting like 7 deadly sins written around there, and there's columns everywhere, eels for some reason, pools here and there, and furnaces. It just, I don't know. I don't like it.
Coming for you!
It's not a good Nightmare Realm, I don't think. And she slides out of this gigantic Freddy face into this really bad CGI scene where she's falling out. But yeah, so some of the effects are hit or miss, and I'd say The practical ones look pretty good. CGI are bad. Another con is the kills. These are some pretty bad kills in this movie. I'm not gonna lie. 2 kills happen off screen. 2 of the 4 deaths that happen in this story are off screen. So it's not even like you don't even see those guys at all, really. Maybe a snippet in the beginning, but other than a nightmare dream sequence, there's some kills there, but those don't count, right? So, when the husband bites it, it looks kind of cool, like as an idea. But in practice, it just looks kind of goofy, And then, of course, they try to recreate Tina's kill from part 1 with the babysitter. What was her name? Julie. Julie is the babysitter. You see her quite a bit in this movie, too. So they recreate that in the hospital. And it has nowhere near the effect of the first one did. They even have Dylan reaching out, kind of like Rod was in the first one. It's just like it just didn't work, and it just comes off as weak. Freddy is kind of cool; he's jumping around, but then this is also getting back to what people like about this movie, and that's Freddy is darker in this movie. Well, guess what? He's not all that dark in this movie.
Hey, Dylan. Ever played Skin the Cat?
Maybe more than 5 and 6, but hell, Ronald McDonald's darker than that. Grimace is more intimidating than those Freddys, but I mean, he has his moments in this one. Like, everyone knows the scene where he pops out the closet and, announces himself.
Miss me.
But basically, in the real world, he's the same bumbling goofball wisecracker that he's always been. He can never close the deal. He's toys with his prey for some reason. Like, he doesn't need to. He just needs to kill Nancy and get it over with, right? And he can't close the deal.
Pick a pet for the rubber bitch.
He's got her at the arm's reach tons of times. He has the whole sequence in the end in the Labyrinth or Coliseum, whatever that place is, Dream World, and it's just lame. I don't like it at all. But yeah, the kills are bad. Freddy's better than he was, but he's not as dark as people say he is in this one. He's still got one-liners, he's still quipping, and they still do some really wacky stuff with him, especially in the Dream World, like stretching out arm with rubber band sounds. Give me a break. He shifts to eat the kid, and then his mouth gets all big and it's just so weird. And then, of course, don't get me started on the kill itself. Oh my gosh, that's so pathetic, man. But whatever, enough of that. But so yeah, kills are really weak in this, and Freddy is decent but not great. I don't like his design that much. Definitely like his original design better. The trench coats are cool, but give him a brown hat for goodness sake, and I don't know, and get him out of Hot Topic. He's wearing skin tight leather pants and all. Musical score is pretty good. They weave the original theme in there throughout quite a bit. It's always a nice touch. The hospital scene, that entire segment when they're in the hospital really bogs the movie down. I don't like that scene. I don't like any of the scenes in there. They do try to recreate some of the old catchphrases from the first one, like, screw your pass.
This is a restricted area. Do you have a pass? Screw your pass.
So they throw that in there for the fans, but man, I don't like... Once that gets to the hospital, an already slow movie gets really slow, and it's really bad, and you start learning about childhood diseases, illness. Like, I don't want to watch this. I want to learn about Freddy, or I want to see Freddy, There's a scene where Dylan kind of sleepwalks out of that place, running from Freddy or something to try to go home and find Rex, his protector, right? And then it'd been really cool to see Rex actually actuated and fighting Freddy, right? That would have been awesome. But and they have this scene where they're both crossing the road. You know, Nancy catches up with the sleepwalker, and he's in traffic, and she's in traffic, and cars are whizzing by, and it just goes on and on and on, and it's all blued out, and you got the stupid Sky Freddy that's picking them up and all that. It's just like, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, but it's just, it doesn't fit. It does not fit this whole thing. It's too loud and big and over the top for a movie that was pretty reserved and quiet. Sometimes Wes has problems with finishing movies, man. They start off so strong, and then toward the end, they kind of go out with a whimper, you know? But, yeah, so that part, you know, I didn't like. Some of the characters, like tertiary characters, are, you know, bland and uninspiring. You don't really feel too much for them or care about them. I guess that's okay. It's a two-person movie anyway, right? So, yeah, there's some stuff not to like. I'm going to be honest with you here. So let's go ahead and get to an overall score and then get on out the door here. So what score would I give this movie? Oh boy, it's a tough one. On the one hand, it's so incredibly much better than the last two movies in the series. And on the other end of the spectrum, it's kind of a slog at times, and it's less of a lot of things, you know. But it's a high idea. It's a high idea kind of movie, so you kind of let it level it out. I'm going to go ahead and give this movie 3 stars. Some parts of it I thought was more worthy of 4 stars. Some parts were down to like 2-star territory. It was so bad. Like the ending was 2-star worthy, and the hospital scene was 1 and 2-star worthy. It was really bad, but stuff leading up to that was pretty good. Like I said, it was really good at building tension, and it made Freddy seem like a bigger adversary than normal. Because is he going to be a world threat now if he goes into the real world? What's going to happen? So, you know, lots of kudos for imagination. It was also pretty brave to really try to let Heather Langenkamp carry this movie, and somewhat Miko Hughes, because they have like the vast majority of the screen time in this movie. So it's difficult to carry a movie by yourself a lot, and you know, it comes off fairly well for, you know, what they were trying to do. This movie is so hard for me to really judge, man. I'm gonna stick with a 3. It's like a 2.53, but I don't do the 0.5 scale in my movie reviews. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3 just because I enjoyed it more often than I didn't. If they could have trimmed down the hospital scene, got rid of that highway crossing scene completely, thrown in some Rex fights, would have been awesome. Man, that would have been so cool. Of course, it's probably been really bad CGI, but whatever the case may be, that would have been awesome to see. But yeah, it's just an interesting idea that kind of started off great, fizzled at the end, and we're kind of left at the end of it with, I don't know, is it all done now? I don't know, but whatever. Definitely watch it if you're a fan of the series or a fan of horror movies in general. I'm not gonna say it's a bad watch. It's just know what you're getting into. You know, it's not the magnum opus epic that some people make it out to be. It's a good movie, better than the average Friday sequel, that's for sure, but it's I'll watch one any day and enjoy it more, okay? Just saying that right now. So, anyway, thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure to join the Gene Bank and put a comment down below. I love to hear and read and respond to anyone who takes the time to write down there. It's great to hear your input. If you enjoyed this series, please let me know. I have more to do, and I have to figure out my next franchise to do after this one, because I only have, 2 or 3 movies left to do. Stay tuned for more review content, because, you know, if I can review it, I will do it. All right, well, until next time, this is Gene Home. Oh, man, just hoping the movies don't come real, at least in the real world. Out.